There are differences in earnings between occupations. Natural सी बात है. Everybody in the country is not getting paid the same, and that's the reality. uh, एक हम बोलते हैं एक certain group, skilled versus unskilled. Let's talk about that. How does the market for skilled versus unskilled works with the wages? Skilled is obviously somebody who has acquired certain set of experience and training to operate in a certain way, और अनस्किल्ड इज समथिंग जिसके पास इतनी कोई ख़ास क्वालिफिकेशन नहीं है. So let's say I'll make two diagrams to explain the idea. So see very carefully, because now we're going to talk a little in terms of elasticities. Okay. So first I will make a diagram for doctors market, and the second one I'll talk about like a porter or somebody, porter या janitor, something like this. Porter is the guy जो हमें airport वगैरह पे भी मिलता है, and he's pushing the trolleys वगैरह. तो based on the wages and the quantity of labor, this is the two diagrams that I have, let's say. Now, as far as doctor की जो demand है, how does the curve work? This is how the curve works. You see how steep it is. The demand for doctors is very steep. Inelastic is the perfectly right word. What that means is that if wage goes up, the demand for doctors is going to fall hardly any. It's going to be a very small fall if the wages goes up. Demand goes down, but very little. Let me show you. You don't have to mark this. इस वेज पे इतनी क्वांटिटी है, जब वेजेस इतनी सारी बढ़ जाती हैं तो देखो डिमांड में कितना सा ड्रॉप आया. Why is that happening? Because doctors are important. That's why their demand is not. When the wages go up for the hospitals, it's gonna cost them a lot. But since they need the doctors, they're not gonna hire too. They're not gonna fire too many, but they will fire just a few. और wages कम होने पे they will not hire too many. Why? Because they probably already have the necessary amount of doctors. जहाँ तक डॉक्टर्स की सप्लाई का ताल्लुक है, even doctor supply is very inelastic. Inelastic supply means कि wages बढ़ने पे there are not many doctors that can enter the workforce. So when the wages increase, the supply hardly increases, because it's not so easy to become a doctor. It takes time, it needs training, qualifications. So therefore, the markets are highly inelastic for either cases. जहां तक एक अनस्किल्ड मार्केट की बात है, अनस्किल्ड के अंदर the demand is highly elastic and the supply is highly elastic, because it's very easy कि अगर पोटा मार्केट में वेजेस ऊपर जाएंगी तो a lot of people can actually join that industry. It's not difficult for them to join. So as a result, a lot of people can easily join in. And wages, if you see the left diagram versus the right diagram, the wages are a lot more higher over here as compared to in the porter's market. You have inelastic in the doctor's market, you have elastic in the porter's market. So that's why the wages can be different also. So here we're going to write in inelastic markets like doctor's market, the wages tends to be higher because of skills and qualifications required. On the other hand, in the porter's market, the wages tends to be low because it is very easy for labor to join the workforce. Our second occupation के अंदर जो differences we can talk about is private sector versus public sector. ठीक है, so now this is mainly about the discussion of the private versus public sector. The thing is, in some countries, public sector pays more than private sector. For example, they say in case of UK, Ireland, US, India, I think to an extent even in Pakistan, they tend to get a lot more. इसको हम बोलते हैं पब्लिक सेक्टर प्रीमियम भी बोल सकते हैं इसको. There is a chance, okay, it's not true for all countries, so what you should know is the discussion, okay. Generally, I can say that generally public sector pays more than private sector, but it really depends. No, there's no graph for this. Usually what happens is कि public sector जो low skill jobs होती हैं mainly, लाइक जो रोड क्लीन करते हैं, गार्बेज कलेक्शन करते हैं, उस तरह के लोगों को ज़्यादा सैलरी मिलती है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ देयर इज अ प्यून इन अ पब्लिक सेक्टर versus a pune in a private sector, private sector is going to pay them relatively low as compared to public sector. But at the same time, a doctor in the private sector may earn more than a doctor in the public sector. There's a good chance. An accountant in the private sector might earn more than the public sector. Sometimes public sectors, like we can write, sometimes public sector may pay less than private sector because public sector offers many fringe benefits. तो अगर सैलरी कम है कोई बात नहीं, you have so many other benefits that public sector gives you, like education, it could be housing, it could be car, it could be insurance, it could be pensions. So if public sector is paying less but they have good enough fringe benefits, तो हाँ, you can say that private sector might pay more, but public sector is giving all these facilities as well. So our third discussion could be of the gender related, male versus female. Now this is one of the oldest argument that has been talked about in psychology, sociology, economics. Everywhere there is this discussion. So the idea is that male tends to get paid more than female for the same job, for the same responsibility. इसको तो हम बोलते हैं discrimination होना. That's discrimination. Even it does not have to be male versus female, it can be between male of different origins, different ethnicities and race. अब बात ये होती है कि record shows that there is a wage gap. Okay, what do I mean? Let's write the term wage gap refers to a comparison between wages of men and women. इसमें बहुत MCQs आते हैं with diagrams and numbers, and you need to know how you can read them. So wage gap, they have said that over the decades this wage gap is becoming lesser, but general perception is that men's wages are higher than women's. ये जनरल परसेप्शन है कंट्रीज के अंदर, मोस्ट कंट्रीज, बट दैट्स नॉट ऑलवेज ट्रू. द थिंग इज इन सम कंट्रीज दे से, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल बोलिविया के अंदर, ग्वाटेमाला के अंदर, साउथ अमेरिका के अंदर, बहरेन के अंदर, फीमेल्स टेंड टू गेट पेड मोर देन मेल. तो दैट्स नॉट ट्रू कि हर दफ़ा हर जगह पे फीमेल्स. अब ऑक्यूपेशनली भी इट डिपेंड्स. Okay, occupationally be, there are certain occupations where females are dominating more, जैसे कि हेल्थ केयर. फॉलोइंग हेल्थ केयर के अंदर females tend to go more. Why? It could be because of their personality or characteristics. Okay, uh, there's a big debate that happens. I don't know if you've heard of feminism, but a lot of feminism is about this whole entire movement of females for equal rights and everything. So the argument happens कि ठीक है जी, आपको equal rights चाहिए, तो should we say that everyone, like for example अगर डॉक्टर्स है तो मेल और फीमेल सेम परसेंटेज होना चाहिए, अगर पुलिस है तो मेल फीमेल की सबकी इक्वल कोटा सिस्टम होना चाहिए और इक्वालिटी होनी चाहिए, 50% मैन 50% फीमेल. So are we talking about that, or are we talking about कि सबको equal opportunity मिलनी चाहिए? There's a difference. One I'm talking about is equal outcomes, and the other one I'm talking about is equal opportunity. Equal outcome का मतलब ये हो गया कि 50-50 हो और हर चीज़ के अंदर ये कोटा सिस्टम हो, whether they want to or not. So they did this, they say in Norway, Scandinavian countries के अंदर, which are supposed to be like living standard के point of view से they're the highest living standards, Norway के अंदर और फिनलैंड के अंदर, उधर उन्होंने कोशिश किया कि सबको इक्वल आउटकम की तरफ लेके जाए. जिसको जिस तरफ जाना है वो जा सकता है नौकरी के अंदर, किसी किस्म की डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं. एंड टर्न्स आउट कि वहाँ पे ऑटोमेटिकली ज़्यादातर लोग लाइक हेल्थ केयर के अंदर फीमेल्स खुद ही ज़्यादा चली गई, और दूसरे काम के अंदर फाइनेंशियल और बिजनेस रिलेटिव चीज़ के अंदर मेल ज़्यादा चले गए. एंड ऑटोमेटिकली दैट हैपेंड. सो दे सेड कि हमने अपॉर्चुनिटी तो दी, लेकिन चूजिंग ऑटोमेटिकली ऐसी हुई है, तो वी कांट हैव एन आर्ग्यूमेंट कि हर चीज़ के अंदर मेन और विमेन को इक्वल रखना ज़रूरी नहीं है, इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी देना ज़रूरी है. ठीक है, आउटकम डज नॉट मैटर, आउटकम कैन बी टूवर्ड्स एनीथिंग. तो ये हमारा मेल और फीमेल की आर्ग्यूमेंट जाती है, जिसके अंदर हम डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की भी बात कर सकते हैं. इनफैक्ट let me talk about discrimination separately, because discrimination is not just gender. Discrimination बेसिकली है क्या? Discrimination is when two sets of groups are paid differently for the same position slash responsibilities. You understand that? So that's what discrimination is. Now, this could be racial, this could be uh, gender. So let's say if I was to make a diagram, I'll make two diagrams of demand and supply, okay? And I'll show how discrimination is going to work. Wages, quantity, demand for labor, supply for labor, and with that you have an equilibrium. On the left diagram, I'm going to talk about white workers, and on the left I'll talk about the black workers. So I'm talking about racial discrimination, obviously. So on the right you have a discriminated market. Obviously there is discrimination over here, and when there is discrimination over here, what is likely to happen is that the demand falls, and as a result less black workers are hired and they are paid less. On the other hand, in a non discriminated market, we're going to see a rising demand causing their wages to rise and quantity to increase. Now, wages can also be because of the working conditions. Okay. Now, working conditions is about maybe the risk of that particular work. For example, a person who works on a water oil rig, the job is riskier, so the wages is going to be more. Then maybe a coastal, yeah, onshore rig जो ज़मीन के ऊपर है, they can go home, it's less riskier, so the wages tends to be on the lower side. ठीक है? In the West, if you're working in the garbage sector, there is more health risks, and so your wages per hour is going to be more than places where there is more security. Okay? उसके अलावा it could be on the basis of location. Like for example, let's say if you are a stock broker and you work in a stock market in New York, your wages are going to be definitely on the higher side. But if you're a stockbroker, let's say in Pakistan, your wages comparatively is going to be on the lower side.